Hello there and welcome back to Business Today. And today we are talking about digital transformation and how it is affecting international trade. And we will be talking to Peter Mutinda, who is the CEO Richfield Capital and also the president of AACC. Thank you so much for joining us on Business Today.
Thank you so much.
All right. So before we get to the conversation, earlier on before the break, we were looking at some stories where we have Kenya partnering with Malaysia, doing business. And from where you sit, dealing with international trade in East Africa, what does this mean for Kenya going forward, partnering with these different countries? What are we looking at in terms of growth? What are we looking at in terms of trying to just make sure that we get to the sectors that have not been gotten into?
Thank you, Kevin, once again. It's a good thing to see the improvement that is coming in terms of engaging the foreign countries for partnership. For example, I heard the delegation from Malaysia mention that they might even be looking to have palm oil plantations in Kenya and Eastern Africa. And that's very important because if you can have the plantations here, if you can harvest here, if you can bring the industry here, you will transfer skill, you will employ locals, you know, instead of bringing crude oil here, then you'll be able to bring what you have there here. And the partnership here will be mutual, not parasitic, as some cases it has been. Yeah, so this is the best direction that we can go. I think globally, there's an awakening of negotiation skills. Countries, including Africa, the continent, are getting to be aware that they need to discuss these things, that you don't have to import everything from that particular country. You can still, partner in a way that is a mutual benefit, and you do things, with that kind of a look. Yes, everybody's suffering from the balance of trade, being skewed on one direction. Everyone is suffering from that, and especially this part of the world. And this is a time for such negotiations to come up.
All right. Yep. Thank you so much. And now let's move on and now to the subject matter, where we're talking about digital transformation. First of all, when we look at international trade and how everyone now is trying to embrace the digital platforms, trying to move into the digital space, how is it going to impact this particular sector when it comes to international trade, when we look at tourism, from where you sit? First of all, are we in the right direction in trying to transition into this kind of transformation?
Kelvin, the old adage that the world will become a global village is finally here with us. We are a community. The world now is a community, that is being driven by linkages via telecommunications. And beneath there is the digital innovation, the tech side of life. So if you ask me where we are now, I'll say we're in the right direction. Yeah. Of course, there is the flip side of life, where we have regulations being affected by global factors like trade wars. We know the major economies in the world like Russia, US, China, that geopolitical approach has an impact on the forward demeanor that we have adopted as a globe, especially in the digital space. However, what has happened is that if people find convenience, they find affordability, they find reliability. If those factors are combined together, then you can as well start using the word unstoppable. You can adopt that word for sure. Because if we look back home here, when the mobile money, M-Pesa Safaricom came on board, the regulation and policies have been playing a catch-up game to be able to adopt. Yeah. And therefore, the digital migration, the digital innovation, the tech space has been on an onward trend. The trajectory is really pleasing, and it's not stoppable. Yeah? We are in the right direction, and we just need to appreciate that. Today, when they talk about palm oil in Malaysia, and we are seated here, I can go back and check online. Okay, how come they do palm oil in Malaysia? What kind of soils, you know, what kind of weather do we need to have? And what do we need to do here, right? And that in itself promotes international trade and it benefits everyone. Because the best way to enslave somebody is to make sure that they don't have full information. That is what digital migration, is doing.
All right, thank you for that. And also, let us look at, move on and also look at when you talk about the tech space and how it's coming to expand the international trade and tourism. Let us look at some of the challenges, because technology is really vast, and most of it you find people don't really have the right information when it comes to how they're going to fully transition. And you, as a CEO, in your own rights, what are some of the things that you would have, that you try to do in order for you to make sure that your company gets into now the, can I call it the digital type of world that we have right now? And what do you think are some of the gaps that are supposed to be filled when it comes to embracing this digital world?
Thanks once again. The digital adoption is influenced by the regulatory response. Yeah. So one of the main challenges would be the regulations which are input there. So most of the time, as I said before, the regulators are doing a catch-up game, So one of the things that can really help, and I think I give it to Kenya for that matter, I'll go back again to M-Pesa. Most of the time, you are hearing, is Safaricom a bank? Is it in the finance industry? Is it in telecommunications? Or where is it? But it's because the innovation came from a telecom. And they went into finance. And these things are joined at the hip. Yeah. So one of the main challenges would be and is regulation, right? But again, the government institutions, regulators are waking up into this. I run a microfinance, and recently you had the DCP, Digital Credit Provider Regulation.
Yes.
Now being done under CBK. Yeah. And one of the outcries that came in there was about data protection. Maybe that's another aspect about the challenge in this field. And when regulator comes in, those are some of the things they look into. So how much information do I get for Kelvin when he comes to borrow a loan? And when he has challenges paying, how do I handle the information that I have? Trying to enforce collection. And therefore, that has been one of the challenges that we find or we face in the microfinance or in the digital credit lenders world. And we expect, because of what is happening now, we expect when the regulator comes in, it comes in not to muzzle, not to kill, but to regulate, to guide, to enhance, and maybe flush out the rogue ones. And it's like an enabler. The regulator to come in as an enabler. And of course, the other challenge about this digital thing is about internet. Internet is a big thing. Do you have a reliable internet wherever you are? Yeah, the developing countries are still, falling behind, the global, level. And that is something that most of the government institutions are trying to come in and to adopt and to sort out. Yeah.
All right, and now let's look at the East African community.
Yes.
and the trade ties that we have, when it comes to trying to embrace the digital world in terms of the EAC economic bloc,
yes,
trying to make sure, because Kenya is of course way ahead when it comes to technology. Now, how does it play out now when we are doing business with our neighboring countries who haven't really fully embraced the tech world? Of course, we haven't fully embraced it, but it's more accepted, and many people use it in Kenya. How does it play out when it comes to now the other neighboring countries, and how do we manage that?
I would call it a digital divide, whereby you find this one region, one country level of adoption and implementation is quite higher compared to another one.
Yes.
And it affects negatively the trade, or can be utilized against the weaker. I was in about 2-3 months ago. I was in Ethiopia, and I was surprised that if I leave the hotel room, and I go out, they had muted internet. I cannot access. Even if I have my mobile data from a local line, I cannot be accessible out there. Well, you can imagine. Communication is, right? So you can imagine if I was thinking of holidaying or going to work there, and I would be disconnected out of the world, that influences inflow of foreigners in terms of FDI investment, in terms of tourism, when you want to be there, because you want to be connected. Now, that's a challenge within the country. And most of the time, when you look at it keenly, it is impacted by the political side. Yeah, and therefore that is another thing that it really plays well. But we appreciate that Kenya stands out in the East African community. And I'm very proud as the president of Asia Africa Chamber of Commerce, where Kenya has come from. I would repeat again, M-Pesa would not be where it is today if the regulators did not allow, as they tried to check what is this and how can we regulate this, did not allow the innovation and the creativity to come up. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And now let's move on also and look at, even as we are winding up now, look at the impact of this on the sector. How is it going to expand the sector going forward? What are we looking at in terms of expansion into even other different regions, also into other different commodities that we haven't looked at? What are we looking at in terms of expansion going forward from this digital transformation? How is it coming to going to impact this sector?
Yeah, it's innovation. All right, it's innovation, and it can and it should be in every sector, right? We have seen in some countries out there, like Malaysia. Let me use that because we were talking about that today. How they handle their plantation, that's in agriculture, agri-tech, really. You find the drone technology is so much established that they are able to tell or they're able to use the drones to spray, maybe if their plantations when they have been infected or affected,
yes,
in whichever way. And they can go further, and this is also happening in Israel, where you find they can attach a gadget into some tree or crop plantation. And that gadget is able to send information and tell them, hey, there's a fungi here, and it needs to be at this level, and it can be nipped before it goes far. Yeah. So it's innovation in every area. And of course, Africa, Kenya, we depend so much on agriculture. So you would expect a lot to happen around that. And it is also being pushed because people can go online and check how is Israel handling this? Yeah. How is Malaysia? How is Asia handling this? So definitely, the digital migration, innovation, creativity and all that is going to be felt in every sector, if you ask me. Look at what our government did the other day, establishing Earth Isasa right? Whereby I can do self-registration of my own title. Yeah, I can self-register, right? Then I can deal with the robot there, ask questions and all that, wait a few days, they'll be able to confirm, you know, the authenticity of my documents. I can be able to get that. I think Kentrade established a platform the other day whereby you can be able to upload all your documents to enhance export, right, and import. One portal that you can be able to download all the documents. So it is going to touch every sector, and it should. In fact, I would say, if digital migration brings in convenience, if it saves, because it does, you know, in terms of overheads for business people. Yeah. If you can also ensure that there's security while you're handling that, then it should be implemented into our flagship projects. What we know helps our country. Yeah. What our feasibility studies has fronted as the main sectors that are going to help our economy, then it should be fronted there. And we know that is what is happening all over the world. And the countries that we can say we want to benchmark, that is what we should do. Maybe one day we'll talk about EPZ sector. We have EPZ here, we have Bangladesh. The other day I was having a meeting with, with an investor in EPZ called Mr. Shukla. And he talked to me about Bangladesh and Kenya, right? And the population that we have here, the skills that we have here, labor cost here, labor cost there, right? Availability of land where you can farm, you have cotton and all that. When you compare there, we are very much advantaged to Bangladesh, but they're far much ahead in terms of the income revenues that they get from EPZ, you know, and especially the government industry, right? So this applying or implementing the digital way of life has an advantage in all sectors. So the question will always be, what is in terms of priority, yeah, in terms of benefit, what are the low-hanging fruits that we can emphasize? And then you can go to the other sector and the other sector.
Thank you so much, Peter Mutinda. Right there, we've come to the end of Business Today in this conversation. Peter Mutinda, who is CEO Richfield Capital and also the president of East Africa Chamber of Commerce, joining us on Business Today to discuss about this particular issue of digital transformation. Right, we've come to the end of Business Today. My name is Kelvin Nyakundi. Stick around. Mbiu ya KTN is coming up next.